Moments of meditation. In the silence there is peace. In the silence there is unspoken joy. In the silence there's release from a world full of chaos and noise. So I wait for these precious moments when I hear all that could never be said, and right here in this holy silence I find God, I find myself. In the silence there is peace. In the silence there is unspoken joy. In the silence there's release from a world full of chaos and noise. So I wait for these precious moments when I hear all that could never be said, and right here in this holy silence I find God. I find God. I find myself. So I invite you now to close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, if you haven't already done that. And breathe in the breath of God. We know that the breath is a symbol of spirit, for spirit is always moving in, through, and as us. Spirit delights in being with us, delights in all of our experiences. For this livingness, this life is joy after joy after joy, and is eternal. And so for these next few moments, we're going to rise up. We're going to lift our hearts. We're going to lift our thoughts. We're going to focus on appreciating all of the blessings of life. Appreciating that we are co-creators with God. There's more to you than meets the eye. There's more to every human being. There's more to everything in this physical world. Because it is all made of stardust and God stuff. Charles Myrtle Fillmore called it invisible substance. The invisible substance in the ethers was how they phrased it back in the 1800s. And what they were describing was the energy of God. And that energy shows up as you, as me, as everything. And so, when we quiet our minds, when we say to our thoughts, peace, be still, we're tuning out the the things of this world that are so distracting and so attractive. And we used to call them squirrels, look, oh, there goes a squirrel, another thought that has run off in a direction when we're trying to be quiet. So even if the squirrels run through your mind during the quiet time, just wave to them and say, that squirrel is also God's stuff. And bring back your mind to the peace of God, to stillness, to the quiet. The peace of God. Let that fill your heart now. Let that fill your mind now. In this now moment, there is only God. There is only love. You are that presence and power, and so is everyone else. Feel that moving through you with every breath you take. Original goodness moving through you now. And so for these next few moments, we will remind ourselves to be still. We'll quiet our thoughts. Just listen to the hum. There's a hum in the lights that are on. Listen to that hum. Focus in on that. And every time your mind wanders, say, peace, be still. And in that stillness, your vibration, your energy will just naturally rise to that of God, to that of love, to that of joy. For you are one with the one. Tell yourself that in the silence for the next few moments. I am one with the one. I am one with the one in the silence. I am one with the one. One with the one presence and one power, that which God is. Continue to practice meditation in your home in the morning, first thing in the morning. Just give that 5 minutes to God. And allow yourself to rise up, to start the day with that energy, with that vibration, with that truth. Living, loving Spirit, we know that you are within and all around us. Actually, you are us. We are one with that one. None of us is the allness of God. God would not be complete without any of us. And so we give thanks for that knowing, and we turn within in any moment when we are feeling confused, any moment when we're seeking clarity. We say, yes, here I am. I am one with the one. For knowing this, we do give thanks. Thank you, Infinite Spirit. Amen and amen. So I wait for these precious moments when I hear all that could never be said, and right here in this holy silence I find God. I find God. I find myself. These shoes have worn thin, and the dust that covers them gives a clue to where I've been. But now I've returned to a hope that nurtures me, with love as remedy from all the miles of doubt and the shame that seemed unending. Now I'm awakening. I stand and sing. I return to the source of my creation, opening to my place of transformation. Now I see love lives in me. I return to the glory of our oneness flourishing, fearless, free, and fully conscious, mightily. I stand and sing, I have returned. Day after day, there are many paths to choose. On some we win, on some we lose. Still all lead to one, where the hearts that tarry there believe in love beyond compare. Then finally I trust your embrace and give thanks for the journey. Yes, I'm awakening. I stand and sing. I return to the source of my creation, opening to my place of transformation. Now I see love lives in me. I return to the glory of our oneness flourishing, fearless, free, and fully conscious, mightily. I stand and sing, I have returned. I return to the source of my creation, opening to this transformation. Now I see love lives in me. I return to the glory of our oneness flourishing, fearless, free, and fully conscious. Now mightily I stand and sing, I have returned. I have returned. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Joy. Thank you for singing that song. I have returned. I ask that they sing that song, especially for today, especially for this message. David Ault wrote that song. He's a minister in Centers for Spiritual Living, and he is an excellent musician. I return to the glory of our oneness, fearless, free, and fully conscious. I return. I have returned. Our last service in this building was March the 15th, 2020, which was a very, very long time ago. Does it feel good to be back?
Yeah.
Welcome home. Welcome home. It's been 18 months. We've returned, but have we? Have we actually returned? Because we've returned to the building. We've returned to this sacred space. But have we returned to our emotional space? Have we returned to our mental space? Have we returned to our spiritual space? Are we back where we were when we left here 18 months ago? I remember when we first heard about coronavirus and COVID, so much information, so much coming out. It was from so many different sources. We listened to experts from the CDC, we listened to doctors, we listened to quacks, we listened to this one, we listened to spiritual gurus. We were looking for answers anywhere we could find them. We just wanted to know what was going on. What we were actually looking for was comfort. We were looking for reassurance. We were looking for somebody to tell us, don't be afraid, it's going to be all right. And we latched on to anybody that had that message, no matter what it was. We latched onto it because that's human nature. We need to feel a sense of security. And if we don't have it within us, we look for it somewhere else. We got to get it from the outside of us. What should I do? Will my family be safe? Will my daughter be safe? Will my church family be safe? Will I be safe? Will we get sick? What do we do if that happens? What are we going to do? We listened to a lot, and we heard what we needed to hear. Jesus used to say, let those who have ears to hear listen. And what he was talking about is you hear what you need to hear based on your level of consciousness. And if you're in a place where you're very fearful, you're going to hear bad things are happening, bad things are happening, bad things are happening. And if you're in a place where you're pretty connected with Source, you're going to feel joy and you're going to feel peace and you're going to feel patience and you're just going to go with the flow and you're going to not worry about it one way or the other. There's another kind of fear, and that is the fear of loss. What if the church dies because of this? What if everything goes away? What if my family? So that's fear too. We hear things according to where we are in consciousness. We've had a lot of losses in the last 18 months. Some have shaken us to our core. The most recent losses that in the last couple of weeks, for those, I don't like to break bad news, but sometimes that's my job. And we got the news that Reverend Jack Barker made his transition. He was, 90 years old. He'd been battling cancer for quite some time. And we know that Jack has just gone on to a body that's working better for him now. He'd done everything he could, but he was one of my mentors, and many of you knew and loved him as well. And then closer to home is our own Brenda Johnson. She made her transition just a couple weeks. There will be a memorial service for her here. I've spoken with Donna. We're going to get together this week and do all the planning. And I believe that's going to be on the 25th. That's a Saturday of September. So we'll get the news out about that. But hold Donna in your prayers and their family as they go through this difficult time. We've had a lot of losses. We may have lost our sense of safety, our sense of invulnerability. You know that feeling like you can go anywhere and do anything? We kind of lose that as we get older anyway. But just the thought that there's this room, it might be full of virus, and we might all, blah, 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 blah. We can go down that road. There's a sense of vulnerability now that did not exist before. Some of us have perhaps had a faith crisis. You lost that sense of safety with God because you expected God to keep you safe, and he didn't. Somebody you know died, or a member of your family passed away. People go into a faith crisis when they expect that God is somewhere outside of there, telling us what to do, keeping us safe, that kind of thing. There may be a sense of loss for family and friends, of course. There may be a sense of loss. For some people, it was about unity or about me. How could we close the church for 18 months? How could we leave the church closed? Don't you have faith? What's the matter with you? That's just a sense of loss, projecting outward. It's a sense of fear, projecting outward. And I'm not judging any of it because it's all just where we are in consciousness. It's all okay. We're all just responding to life in the best way we know how. Actually, I love everybody for their response to this because it's been real, it's been authentic, it's been human. And it's all taking us to another place. It's taking us to another place. Some things will never be the same. Absolutely never be the same. So what next? What next? Well, there's a young man named Peter Burns told a story about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa. Peter lived in a big city. He didn't say which city. I read the story. But it was a big city where, you walk along the sidewalk and you never look at anybody. You know that. You don't make connections with people. You just walk through it. And you just live a kind of a gray existence. Never get out in nature. And that's the way he was. And he didn't know anything was missing from his life. But his brother was a different kind of guy, and he climbed mountains. And one day his brother invited him, come climb Mount Kilimanjaro with me. And he thought about it, and he said, I'm not sure. And then his brother made it a challenge. Come on, it'll be a family adventure. We could do this together. And then he couldn't say no. So he got busy preparing, because when you climb a mountain, you've got to get ready. You've got to get physically strong. You've got to get to where you can breathe still at higher altitudes, or you'll get altitude sickness. You've got to mentally prepare, because it's a really, really tough journey, and you've got to be able to keep going even when it feels really hard. So he prepared himself for months for that challenge of climbing that mountain. When he began that mountain, this is in Africa, so he started in the jungle. And as he climbed a little higher, they got into a forest, and then went a little higher, and he got into a place. He said the landscape at that altitude resembled the landscape of being on the moon. It was so unreal to him. But they kept climbing, kept going, and he reached the ice and the snow at the top of the mountain. And then he reached the top of the mountain. And when he reached the top of Africa, was looking at all of that with a sense of awe and wonder. He said he realized what people meant when he said that we gain focus by living according to nature. Living according to nature. He said living according to nature can connect you to the whole and give you a particular place in the order of things. So by climbing that mountain, he had gained a perspective about himself, his place in the world, about all of life. Now, at the beginning of the pandemic, we all saw things from the perspective that we were used to seeing it from. We were all living our lives, doing whatever it was we did. But as we started to climb the mountain of the pandemic, we started to see things differently. We started to see things differently. Like climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, the pandemic has helped us to gain focus. It forced us to look at what was going on in our lives. A lot of people had that experience of, if I can't go without, if I can't keep busy entertaining myself out there, I'll go within. I'm forced to go within. I will start looking at what's going on inside of me. So the pandemic helped us to gain focus. Perhaps you had that experience of living according to nature. Now, living according to nature from our human fearful experience could be, this virus is out there, it's going to get me, it's going to kill me, this is bad, it's everybody. That's living according to nature. And living according to nature can also be realizing the oneness of all humankind, standing on the top of the mountain in a sense of awe and wonder, and realizing that we are all connected, seeing beyond the external and looking at the spiritual, looking at the bigger picture. One way or the other, the pandemic affected all of us, because it has affected every single human being on this planet. Unlike anything else, this has brought us all to a different place. Those who climb mountains like Peter know that some climbers find an easy path. They'll find a route that works for them, and their steps will be sure, and it's not easy, but it's doable. Other people who climb mountains slip, They fall, they run over boulders, they fall into ravines, some even die trying to climb mountains. Some stumble and fall, pick themselves up, and go at it again. And it's the same for us in this pandemic. Some of us have moved through it with relative ease. We've had the resources that we need. No one close to us has passed. We are not sick. Other people have had massive losses. Many members of their family, many members of their community have died. And through it all, what we know is we can't change what has happened, but what we can do is tie ourselves together like the mountain climbers do. Tie ourselves together, lift each other up, and be here for each other as we move through it. Because there's less chance that we'll slip through the cracks if we're all holding together. So yes, there have been losses, many losses, but there have also been invaluable gains, incredible gains. Perhaps you've gained a greater awareness of your own spiritual nature. Perhaps you've gained a sense that there's something larger than yourself. Maybe you already had that, and you're gaining a closer awareness of daily walk with, we used to call it a daily walk with God. You know, it's being one with your higher self. It's being one with your inner being, your source, that Christ consciousness. The pandemic is a mountain, and everyone on this planet is climbing that mountain. It's taking us to a higher place, and we have no choice but to go forward. Whether we like it or not, whether we stand in resistance and say this shouldn't be, or not, whether we just say, let's see where this is taking us, we're going. We can't not go. We're here. So here we are, we're back in this space. We've returned to the building, and yet none of us are the same as we were. We don't even want to be the same as we were, I don't think. The way we see the world isn't the same anymore. We've been called to a higher perspective. Our values may have changed. Things that seemed so important in the past, we know they're not important now. And things that we didn't really appreciate, we know how precious they are. We know how precious we are to each other, I hope. I know how precious you are all to me. All right. So we're not taking things for granted anymore. And here's the exciting thing to me. The exciting thing is we're looking at everything from a different perspective. We're also looking at things on our spiritual path from a different perspective. Our spiritual laws, the spiritual life that we live, things that didn't used to make sense are starting to make sense now. Things are clicking into place. Something that you read before and you went, I'm not sure. Yeah, okay. Now you get it. Oh, that's what they were talking about. You start to see connections because all of humankind is rising up in consciousness. You are too. When one of us rises, we all rise. And so things are going to start making sense to you like they never did before. There are going to be more aha moments. Life is going to start becoming more and more fun. It's going to be easier. I'm telling you, it's going to be easier to meditate. A lot of people have trouble with that because of focus. We're focusing all together from a higher perspective now. It's going to be easier. We're gaining momentum on the spiritual journey. And so that to me is an exciting thing. No matter what the world looks like out there, and it looks like chaos, remember, things have to break up in order for them to come together in a new way. And we're the ones that are helping to bring it together in a new way. We've got work to do, but it's good work. It's fun work. It's a work that will bless us, is blessing us. You know, one of the things that we know is, if you don't know, you'll have to take my word until you feel it for yourself. We all know that we have everything that we need to know to do this. Peter spent a few months getting ready for that climb. We've been spending years getting ready for this. We have been learning spiritual principles and talking about it for decades, some of us. You have everything you need already for this spiritual journey to make this climb to the top of this mountain. We're trying to attain a mountaintop consciousness. And we're not just trying, we're doing it. The gift of the pandemic is we know that we will overcome it, not through things that we do on the outside, but by going within, through our conscious moment-to-moment focus. A mountain climber has to watch every step. If they don't, it could be the last one. We're not in that position. We get to watch our every step, but we're watching our every step, every moment, every thought, every word, every feeling has meaning, and we get to use that to bring us to a new place, a new higher place. We have tools that we didn't know we had, and we're going to go through those. We're going to go through some of those. It's actually quite simple. We used to call it let go and let God. And what we meant by that sometimes was let go and let the God out there fix it for us and take care of us. We can trust that that God loves us so much that everything's going to be all right, and that is true. And that is only half of the story. When we say we let go and let God, what we really mean is let go and let God be God in you. Let God be God as you. There is a part of you that is God, and it's like the right brain part of us, but the left brain is so loud it won't let that part be heard. So we get to say, left brain part, let go. Let the right brain have a say. Let my inner being, my spiritual nature have a say in this. How should I look at this? If I'm afraid, inner being, what do you think? How should I be? What would you think about this, inner being? And wait for the answer. That is an amazing, simple way to do things. And as we practice it, you start getting those answers. Let go, let God be God in you. And how can you tell how you're doing? Now, you've all heard this before, but we're going to see it from a higher perspective now, so it's going to make more sense. You pay attention to your feelings. Because God feels like joy. God feels like love. And if the way you're thinking isn't allowing you to think joy and feel love, then you're not thinking like God. So you say, okay, God, I'm feeling scared. How are you seeing this? How's my inner being seeing this? And listen. And we can do that moment by moment by moment through our lives. And it will lead us unerringly to joy. That's where we're going. That's our true nature. So, if you are here for the first time, you've come at the right time. Because going forward, we are going to start taking a fresh look from a higher perspective at some of the spiritual teachings that we've been taught over the years. We're going to look at some of the basic ideas that support us in practical spiritual living. So what's next? Well, a wise person once told me, there is no next. There's only now. Don't wait for next. Let's start now. Right now, your thoughts, the ones that you're having, if thoughts are energy, and if they were like every time you had a thought, color would come out, we'd see clouds of color popping up all over in this room. There'd be little clouds of color popping up all over this room. Your thoughts are vibrations, they are creative, they're attracting and shaping the energy of the universe. So let's focus our thoughts right now on appreciating our time together again. We will, over time, we'll be experiencing some of our grief. We will be experiencing our love, and we will be experiencing our joy together. That's what we came here to do. You're not here by accident today. It's divine appointment. Those of you who are listening on the internet, live stream, I haven't been looking at you, but I'm looking at you now. Okay, this is what we're here to do. We're going to go forward with ease and grace because we know how. We have prepared. We have studied for this. We have trained. We're going to go forward. Yes, we have returned. And there is no going back. Because you realize when you climb the mountain doesn't change, but you do. We all do. We all have. Peter was profoundly changed by climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. It changed his view of the world. It changed what was important in his life. He came to understand the value in just that moment. He came to understand the value of connecting with others. So he wouldn't walk past people in the street in the city anymore and not look at them. He couldn't do that anymore because he recognized the oneness. He learned the value of going slowly but surely. We don't need to rush. He said the natives called it pull. Take a step, reevaluate, listen. Take a step, reevaluate, listen. And he learned to appreciate the value of human diversity because you have to hire a guide to take you up that mountain. You can't do it by yourself. And they go up those mountains and down all the time. They make it possible. And the important thing to remember is getting to the top of the mountain is not the end of the journey. You still got to go back down. You can't stay at the top of the mountain. And in our spiritual journey, we have those top of the mountain experiences, and we get to bring that back down with us into our daily livingness. Living according to nature, feeling awe and oneness with all that is, and allowing that to just ooze out of you so that the people around you feel it and know it. In our new world that we're creating of living according to nature, we slowly go forward with full faith and trust in our sacred selves. We listen to that inner being. That's where we go. We're more than our humanness. We are eternal beingness. We get to remember that and live that way. You know, in some circles we're told that that's sacrilege. But if we can get past our fear, we recognize that's truth. We can feel it. It feels good to know that, doesn't it? So we're figuring it out that we not only go to the top of the mountain, learning the spiritual laws of the universe is doing that, but then we get to come back down to the mountain, then back to the ordinary life and bring all that with us, bring it with us. The ongoing journey is about connecting with the sacred self, not once in a while, but day by day, moment by moment. Go forward with full faith and trust in your sacred self. So, all things are possible. All things are possible when we're on that level of that Christ consciousness, our inner being. When we're on our humanness and our fear, nothing seems possible, and it feels horrible. That's when you say, how does my sacred self see this now? And you may not be able to go from the bottom to the top of the mountain all at once. Go slowly, pull, go slowly and steadily. Trust in that process. If you've been around New Thought for a while, you're very familiar with these ideas. What holds us back from living this way, I believe, what holds us back from being fearless, free, and fully conscious is the stories that we've heard, and more than that, the stories that we tell. The stories that we tell ourselves. So for the next lesson series I'm doing, it's going to be about the stories we tell. We'll start, I think, next week with in the beginning. In the beginning, God created. Let's look at that story from the lower perspective of what we've been taught, or maybe have been taught, maybe not, and from the higher perspective of what that really means. And so we'll go through a number of topics and we'll look at them from the mountaintop and we'll see what they mean. For today, I believe it's enough to know that we can go forward. We're going forward with full faith and trust that we can't go back. We have returned to this space and we can be fully alive in this now moment, knowing what we know and being who we are. Thank you for joining me on the spiritual journey. It's good to see so many of you here today. Thank you, those of you who are out in the internet land. We have returned. Thank you, and God bless.